Excellency, distinguished guests and participants, colleagues, as a key element of this very important event is this exhibition that you are able to see that has been set up to provide opportunities to city and organizations to share their ideas and development achievements. Therefore, it is a great honor for me to invite UNIDO's Director General, Li Yong, and Mr. Wu from FSC to join us for this panel. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Director General, we are pleased to have your welcoming remarks. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Gerardo. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, I'm truly honored to be here today once again, together with Mr. Wu Zhong, the Vice President and Director General of our partner organization, the Finance Center for South-South Cooperation, to inaugurate the opening of the exhibition for our second annual Bridge for Cities event. Our colleagues here have worked tirelessly to bring this vision to life, with all booths arranged highlighting the 5 pillars of the Belt Road Initiative. Actually, you could see the 5 pillars already being mentioned surrounding this pavilion. Number 1 is policy coordination. Number 2, the enhance the connectivity. Number 3 is unimpeded trade. Number 4 is financial integration. Number 5 is cultural diversity. Each exhibitor's booth offers participants greater insight in the working areas in each pillar and showcase various initiatives designed to support and advance inclusive and sustainable urban and industrial development. And it is our hope that this exhibition will stimulate fresh ideas amongst our participants, particularly municipal representatives, and offer concrete case studies for future replication in other cities along the Belt Road. I strongly encourage all of you to avail yourself of this opportunity and to tour the booth at your leisure over the forthcoming days. And at the same time, I really hope this booth will help you to think something more and to join the discussion in the forum more actively. So once again, thank you for joining this opening of the exhibition. Thank you, Gerardo.
Thank you very much, Director General. And there is no exhibition or event, and especially a road opportunity without cutting the red ribbon. So I have the pleasure to invite you and Dr. Wu and our gentlemen will help you to symbolically open the road. We have the belt, we open the road now. Thank you so much. So this is to declare officially open the exhibition. And this is the opportunity to continue with our program. Dr. John Close, the Executive Director of UN Habitat, couldn't be with us, but we are so lucky and we have the opportunity to play a recorded video. So I would just invite you to be sitting there while we are watching the video of the Executive Director of UN Habitat. Thank you so much, please. Opportunity for us to hear from our colleagues and partner organization UN Habitat. And at this point, as is foreseen in the program, there is also a very important symbolic and substantial part of this program, ladies and gentlemen, is that this event also gives us an opportunity also to share with you and with all the participants a very outstanding 2017 South-South Cooperation Report. And the title is Changing Role of South-South Cooperation in the Global Development System, exactly what we heard this morning and now. So at this point, I would like to request again our Director General, Mr. Lee Yong, and also Mr. Wu to join us to symbolically unwrap this publication with us and then sign this new publication. Publication will be then made available both in printing and you have to unwrap it, please. Yes. So I would say while we symbolically unwrap this very important publication, it will be then made available to all of you both electronically and in printed version. And I think it's a very, very important and significant publication. So we have now the honor to officially have Mr. Lee Yong to officially sign the very fresh publication. Thank you. Yes.
Do we need a lectern? Could we bring the lectern aside?
The what? No, maybe for the speakers, then for the yes. Okay, big round of applause. Thank you very much. This is a very significant piece of work, intellectual, with a lot of case studies that I'm sure will enlighten all of us in reading it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Congratulations. At this moment, of course, this part of the ceremony, and we are having an open debate, very important, but at the same time, I have to announce the lunch for the participants is also being served at the same time. So we hope that many of you will decline the idea of eating, but to be fed by ideas of the speakers. But thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So I'd like to invite the speakers for the open debate. I hope they're around. Sorry. Sorry? Hello. Gentlemen, please. Please come on stage. Oh, yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about now to start the next and the last part of this official opening ceremony.
To mean the introduction for the book, they will read it.
Okay. Sorry very much. Yes. I'm very sorry because this was added. Ms. Zhang is the Deputy Director General of the Finance Center for South-South Cooperation, who will just give us a brief outline of the publication. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, thank you. Opala. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was too excited.
Yes, we are all excited.
Yes.
See. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the floor to Madame Zhang.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to share the congratulatory message from the UN Secretary General's Envoy on South-South Cooperation, Mr. Jorge Chediak. The UN Office for South-South Cooperation congratulates the Finance Center for South-South Cooperation on the report. The publication captures the historical perspective and current transitions of South-South cooperation in today's development landscape. It introduces the strategies and practices of the emerging economies, development partners, and multilateral institutions created to facilitate the expansion of South-South cooperation. The report is therefore a very useful compilation of knowledge on South-South cooperation from concept to practices, presenting a diversity of independent views on a wide spectrum of issues on international development cooperation. This is also a timely contribution as the international community prepares to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Buenos Aires Plan of Action for cooperation among developing countries with the UN High-Level Conference on South-South Cooperation, BAPA Plus 40. UN Office for South-South Cooperation, jointly with UNDP,
already we have two.
is supporting the global coalition of think
Yes,
tank
yes,
network
I'm
on
sure, I'm
South-South
sure, I'm
cooperation
sure.
to advance Southern perspectives and Southern thought leadership. In this context, bring forward the diversity of views
Yes,
to
I don't know.
inform
I
policymakers
got
and
the picture, but
practitioners in order to strengthen the pathway
And-
towards achieving the Agenda 2030. I hope to see more of such
Always for
knowledge
they have the
products
stand,
being
so I
led
guess
and
the chair.
produced by institutions from countries of the Global South to enrich the discussion on this important agenda. Jorge Chediak, Envoy of the UN Secretary General on South-South Cooperation and Director for United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation. Thank you.
So he also gave us a.
Persons did take part in the
Oh, there are 500 people. Well, thank you very much. So, for the courageous that would like to have food for thought, I think we are just opening the next sessions here. And we try to gather all the speakers. At the moment, please, I mean, you can start on stage. And of course, this is the open debate here is part of the program. The program we know is very dense, very important. And what we try to see now is how the sharing economy impact the future of urban development. Please have a seat. We have now all the participant gathering. But let me share with you the idea why we decided to have also this event here. The idea is the debate should contribute to identify also how urban development is linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, how that it is also linked with the Belt and Road Initiative. And we have the opportunity to have here very, very important speakers. I think there is only one missing that I hope will come on board. The idea is that the sharing economy, as we know, is a very new and key. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. We have too fast. So the world is moving very fast, so we are also moving. It's very unusual. Normally we are late. But okay, thank you very much. We're only missing one speaker. Maybe one of my colleagues. Sorry, yes. I don't think we need that. So the idea why we are here with this open debate. The key point is that the emergence of sharing economy has a very strong impact on urban development and the life of millions of people. We know we live this society. And of course, cities are fundamentally built and exist upon this cohesion, the social, economic relation among people for security reason has been built. So we want to use this opportunity to have these very prominent speakers and experts to see how this link exists and what are the prospects for the future. So we see that impact of these changes on the sharing economy as on our future, our family, our children. So if you allow me, then I would like to have a very brief presentation. You know that all the full CV has been printed, so I will have to reduce to the key points that I hope I've taken from your very rich CV. Miss Tanya, how shall I pronounce your name? Vesely is the Vienna City Council member and is the head of the Board of Economics, Finance and International Affairs of the City of Vienna. You're very welcome. The main focus, what I understand, of your very successful career is related to labor market, policy, youth education, voluntaries, and also lecturing on public relations. So she will also give us her point of view. Then Eugen Antalowski is the Managing Director of Urban Innovation Vienna. He's a scientist, has been a consultant, a researcher, a manager, and university professor, and I don't know, a very long list. And I understand that your main focus is on urban dialogue and innovation and management of urban development and so on. So you again, very, very welcome. Then we have Alexander Orovka is the Managing Director of Car2Go Austria. That's easy because I'm also a client, so I know Car2Go, but of course you have a very, very rich experience in the private sector, in establishing enterprises both in Europe and in USA. So I think you have also very broad perspective and how this innovation on sharing cars as part of the sharing economy will be very important. Mr. Andreas Brembauer, so he's the director of each program, Logistics and Transport, so very much related to that. You have very top positions, the University of Applied Science, BFI in Vienna, the Institute for Danube Region, the Central Europe, specialized in economic geography and economics, location policy, location development, Central and Eastern Europe. So again, I understand the other speaker, Mr. Zhang, is not around, so I believe we can just go ahead. Well, thank you very much.
He needs another 5 minutes.
Yes. So we are too fast. The world is moving fast. I'm just trying to see the timing.
It's easy to pass the control. Yeah.
Okay. I believe we have 3 microphones. Can one microphone be put here? I think we have 4 speakers, so we don't have to share it.
Okay.
So what we wanted
no
to...
sharing the mic.
No sharing the mic.
Okay.
We are
Sharing
reaching
the
resources in this case. So what we try to see and to analyze together, and I really appreciate, is there are basically 3 points that we wanted to see. How collaborative economic platform can be used to tackle the needs of people, communities, but also of the municipal governments. And then we want to see how this potential and impact of sharing economy has on the local communities, on the people, on us. And what is the relation between this and inclusive development, environmental impact in urban areas. And the third point is, what are the challenges for municipalities? I mean, of course, also we have a different perspective from who is managing the public and who is providing advice. So this is the idea. What I would like to have is a 3 to 4, 5 minutes. What is your point of view on of course, the main subjects, impact of sharing economy on the future of urban development? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that we want to see? Okay, thank you very much. Tanya, you have it.
Ladies first. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. As you heard, I'm a representative of the city of Vienna, the city councillor. Yes, dealing a lot with labor market, but also with the issues of sharing economy, impact. So the way the city of Vienna sees it is sharing economy is nothing very and absolutely new to the city of Vienna, especially the way we build public housing, the way we, share a lot of public needs and interests that our citizens need, just like public pools, using infrastructure together, having a very good and pretty affordable mobility systems in our city. So all this we also kind of see under the context of sharing cities. So maybe this is some kind of new label. What we do, hi. What,
We welcome Mr. Zhang, but please
Yeah.
go ahead. We will introduce him later.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
good point, because what we do not really see as a new kind of sharing economy in a way that we would really call it the sharing economy is commercial platforms. I think commercial platforms are good, and they're a way of doing business, and if they share resources and fit in and are included in some kind of concept that the city understands and can share and can like and can afford, whatever, it is good for us, it is good for the city of Vienna, but not everything in our point of view that it's called sharing. It's something's a business and something's sharing, and I think we should look into that a little more. So that would be our biggest concern and our biggest interest. Is the sharing economy a fair economy, or is it a righteous and okay commercial platform doing business, paying taxes?
Okay, thank you very much. I think this is a very, very important point, and we see also the opinion on our colleagues, because it's just a commercial, it's a business opportunity, but it's also an opportunity for growing prosperity and the impact on the people. Thank you very much. But then we started before, so we are moving too fast, even faster than the bike. So Mr. Zhang is a co-founder and the CEO of OFO, one of the world's biggest station-free bike sharing platforms. So thank you, Marwan. And of course, he's overseeing the overall strategy of the company and operational in a global way. And before, I think he was also with another platform that is Uber, but you have an experience in banking before, and again, fresh also idea and prospects. So I say what we try to see what is the impact of all this sharing economy on the people, on urban development, on opportunities. What is the conflict between business and sharing prosperity for the people? So maybe we're just making a round. So
Okay.
please. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think if I look from the perspective of a city on the sharing economy, I will add something which Tanya mentioned before. I think one of the main challenges in the future will be how the division of labor and the division of services between the public and the private sector will take place.
Okay.
For example, we have done a study for the city of Vienna some years ago regarding Uber and Airbnb, and we did point out at this research what are the main challenges to have a fair economy in the city. Because on the one hand you have established businesses like the hotels, on the other hand you have the private sector who is responsible for housing, as well as the public sector. And we did have a very special situation at that moment in the city of Vienna, and also in other cities. We know about the struggles, Amsterdam, Portland, or so on, or Paris. One issue is, for example, and that we have to discuss in the future if we talk about sharing economy, about the contributions, the financial contributions to the development of the city as a whole, because it's not only a question of one business or one infrastructure or one service. It's the whole of the city. And we made the experience in this research that we do have a problem, for example, that the hotel business has to pay taxes for what they are doing. On the other hand, the people who service the Airbnb opportunities, they don't pay the taxes. And also the platforms don't pay the taxes. That means that's an imbalance in the responsibility for general interests. And I think we have to take a closer look to these questions when we go, for example, to Car2Go. I think it's a very good service, and it's an upcoming service, mobility service, which is very useful for the cities because
But they pay taxes.
No. Yeah,
You do.
yeah. But first of all, I go to Car2Go. First of all, I think this is very helpful if we want to reduce individual automobility.
Yes.
But on the other hand, if I look to the advertisement campaigns of the big car companies, they highlight very much the individual ownership, for example, also of autonomous driving cars.
Yes.
I think the big chance, for example, with autonomous driving cars is if we really realize sharing economy, that means we have to reduce the individual ownership, because it doesn't help very much if you have your own autonomous driving car standing in front of your office, standing in front of your flat. Then it's not helpful for the whole development of the city. In this respect, sharing of mobility devices is one of the most important upcoming things. And I think the city of Vienna is cooperating with you as well, or discussing with you. But then you come to the next point, that you have the question on the ownership of the data. I understand, for example, that Car2Go wants to own his own data. On the other hand, the city of Vienna also wants to have the data of the passengers, because the city is responsible for the whole mobility infrastructure and not only for the cars. That means which is much more worse, and we have to discuss this.
Okay, well, this is, I think, a very important question, because the idea or the opportunity and the conflict they could have, and access to data is also a very key element.
Right.
So I think we'll see what is the
Thank you.
response here.
I agree to all what said before. Must add what you mentioned, data sharing.
Yes.
There's a good example in Copenhagen where Hitachi Group has founded a platform with the business and with the government, and is able to share the data with the local government. I think it's a best practice in that point. I can also add some figures. In Austria, the individual car mobility is with one person in the car, 1.2 person, and 6 hours a week the car is on move, and the rest he is parked. It is parked. And the same is it with trucks. So the sharing platforms like Car2Go or others, or OFO, cycling sharing platforms are better, is really, really useful in the context that we live in a society where the future customer wants to consume ordered things by phone, mobile phone, immediately and anywhere. So from the logistics point of view, we are faced with a batch number size 1, so that if you order online a parcel or package, you get one product in a parcel delivered by the services. So that means an immense increase of traffic within the cities, and in 2050 we're facing 70% persons of the whole population in cities. Okay. And so this is a pro-sharing economy, has the future, but as you have mentioned, it is not only to have fair working conditions, but also fair market conditions. And this is what we have to discuss later, I think.
I think this is a key point, the fair market condition.
Yeah.
These opportunity, they have positive, negative impact. What is also the policy to sustain that?
Yeah.
And maybe you will give us your view on this.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, sharing economy is for Car2Go the existence. I mean, we exist because of the sharing economy. And when the idea of Car2Go was created in 2008, it was something really new and something that had never been there before. I mean, car sharing has been there for a few years, a few decades even. Yes. But not free floating, and free floating was something that was so new when we came to Vienna in 2011. First of all, and this is no offense to the city, but the city didn't know what to do with us, because they just they didn't know what we were doing, and it was very understandable for the city that they were cautious, and that they said, okay, we will see how this turns out and how this works out, and then further on. Since 2013, we are part of a mobility study in the city of Vienna, which was then for the first step finalized in 2015 and presented to the public. So the city has taken a very approach which was, okay, we will look at this and see how this develops, and if it's good for the city, we are trying to help this, and we are trying to support that. Exactly. So that's where we're right now, and at that stage, and we made one, I think, very good step for the support from the city for Car2Go, or for all free-floating car sharers, I have to say. And I think the next steps have also to follow and will follow with the city of Vienna. And we see this development also in other cities in Europe, also in North America where we operate, that the cities are realizing what benefit we can bring for reducing parking space needs. Like when we have the optimistic approach in the study from Henry Consulting was 7 private cars are reduced by 1 free-floating car sharing car. So all those cars which should be replaced are now giving us free space for something different, like parking. I mean, it's so useless, as you said, that a car is just driving 6 hours a week, and the other time it's just standing around. So I think sharing economy, from my point of view, and where I live in this mobility and this car sharing, it's very much something that can help a city to regenerate areas for something different than just standing a car on it. Although I also have to say our mother company, which is Daimler AG, is a car manufacturer, and of course they also see the need for private car ownership. And I think that the big challenge here, especially in mobility, is to differentiate between an urban area and a non-urban area, like where all those areas in Austria, like in Lower Austria, for instance, which is very near to Vienna, they are not so dense populated, and therefore it's very hard to operate a car sharing, a bike sharing, or whatever. So in an urban area, it's much easier, and it's much more. It has much more chance to is profitable. So I think this has to be always in the focus when we are talking about that. We cannot generalize everything, so we have to differentiate about the different regions. And I think also we have to develop different models for different regions in a country, or also maybe in a city. Maybe some cities, especially in China, are so big. We operate in Chongqing, which is a city. It's a smaller city in China, as I understand it. But still, it has it has a population which we in Austria cannot imagine, on a size of an area that's practically Vorarlberg, and that's just something that we cannot imagine at all living here. So I think there are different models needed for different things in the sharing economy, definitely.
I think, again, this is complete, but now we see also a different perspective. And I would like, if you want John to explain his concept, how this contributes to urban development in different contexts. We will say urban area, not urban area, in rural areas, in big cities, in big countries. How things this impact, and what is the impact you want to achieve to promote a sustainable and inclusive urban development? Thank you.
Absolutely. So first of all, Chongqing is actually a very big city in China. That's very good. So yeah. So I think how about this? Like, we take a step back. Like, we ask ourselves like a question, like what a city really needs, right? So basically, regardless of all this existing system and whatever, like we think like what the citizens living in the city, what they really need. So our thinking, especially for the last mile commuting, is that they need like a very easily accessible way, a very sort of affordable way, and a green way to get around the city. So basically, that's where we start to come up with the idea of what we can contribute to the city. So obviously, no matter, right now we're in 13 markets in the global right now, and no matter where we go, so the first thing is that we want to be super transparent to the city government and also to the people of what we bring, what we want to achieve here. And we really, really respect like the local difficulties. We have some operation expertise back in China. We know how to run the business there. But we do realize like different markets is different. Every place is different. We respect like the local differences, and we want to find like the local solutions for the local markets. So basically like we upgrade our product and we upgrade our like the structure of the system like to sort of like to meet up the requirements of the city. So what you can see is that for every city we enter, we will have the support of the local government, including like in Vienna. I think the feedback we've been receiving so far in the city is super supportive, and really appreciate that. And also like in cities like Milan, cities like London, like Seattle, we all have the government support to sort of like run the pilots, run the business in there. So that's actually very important to us to have this mutual understanding that we're doing something good to the city, right? And also we're super open and flexible to make adjustment whenever needed, right? So we're a technology company, so there are a lot of ways actually to make adjustments on the technology level to prevent a lot of those potential problems from happening. So in terms of like contributions to the city, so there are a lot of things. We help reduce the carbon dioxide emission. We create a lot of jobs. We actually, bicycle is by far the most green way, purely green way, get around the city. Maybe another way is by boat, but yeah, so yeah, for bike is most popular. So yes, and we also like have people to share, right? So to reduce a lot of resources, save a lot of resources. So basically, one number I can share here is that on the efficiencies of one ofo bike is 20 times higher than a private bike. So basically, if you have your own bike, you serve only yourself. You have a private log, you have to serve only yourself. But if you ride bikes on OFO platform, it actually, one bike serves on average 20 more people. So just imagine, right? So like a city, for example, Amsterdam or Copenhagen, in a city like there are a lot of bikes. So I went there, I see like actually there are a lot of bikes on the street. Actually, a lot of the public space are actually taken. And it's really like a pain point of the city, also for the government, is that there are a lot of zombie bikes, like there's no owners, right? So just like on there, and they spend a lot of time, a lot of money to actually collect all these bikes back and recycle them, etc. So that is a problem like city has. So echoing to our point, like every city we go into, we try to solve the problem for that city. Right, so I can give you an example, like for a city like Amsterdam, our proposed solution would be like for every, we can help to collect all the zombie bike back from the street. So for every zombie bike we collect back, we will roll out one OFO bike. So there's no additional take-up of public space. But once the OFO bike is on the street, the one bike can serve 20 people. So you can imagine, like if we can recycle all of that 2 million bikes, we only need 100,000 bikes. That actually can free up like 90% of the public space. So that's one example of how we can contribute to the city in terms of like building a better place.
Thank you very much. I think this is very interesting. But of course, the difference that you don't own a bike manufacturing company, while this is a different business model. But I think this first round of discussion is very interesting. I think you want to say something before I make a question. So please.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can just say hi. I can just say seems that this is too good practice or best practice how you can implement and deal with the needs of the cities and also just run your business. So the city of Vienna is interested in people wanting to make business here, but under certain circumstances that go well together. So I know that OFO as well as Car2Go is talking to the city, also being interested in what the needs of the city is, of the citizens is, and not just calling themselves sharing economy and just running their business with no surrounding. So that is the point. So we have a lot of car sharing and bike sharing coming into the city. It's not like everybody talks to us, and this is not going to work. So we have to talk, we have to develop together, we have to see the needs, and then there's going to be a good business, and it will be a benefit to the citizens. So this is what we want as an impact of a sharing economy. And not yet talking about the whole labor market and
Impact on jobs.
that's another
Yes.
point.
The impact on job I will ask
Yeah.
later, but what I found remarkable in this discussion that what this example have an impact on mobility, on environmental impact, and doesn't take business out of another service provider. So we're talking about service provider. Of course, the example we made before about
We do have a service provider, but it
it's-
fits.
But then it
That's
fits.
not the-
There is,
yeah.
market opportunities there. But of course, like the example that that you were mentioning about Airbnb, basically you taking business out of or Uber. I mean, the question that is always in the debate: you have service provider under certain market conditions, that you take that out, and at the same time, you also don't have an advantage of taxation. So from a municipality perspective, I mean, why should you favor that? I mean, it's a provocative question, but what are the answers? What are the alternatives?
I think what you mentioned before, what I mentioned and you tackled again is Uber, for example. I think we have to look at these developments of sharing economies in a little bit longer perspective than only 1 or 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would be a little bit more interested in the real business model behind your business, because you are not only in one city, you are acting in many cities. That means you are a multinational player. There seems to be not only an altruistic interest behind that, it's a business model. And if we, for example, live in capitalism, you have a profit interest. That's not bad. But to see how to handle this in cooperation with the public sector who is responsible for equalizing some of the differences, we have to look at that. And if you, for example, look to Uber, we know it worldwide from the whole discussions. You, on the one hand, you produce new jobs for people. They have an income which didn't have any chance any time before. But on the other hand, they put a lot of pressure, for example, on the other taxes.
Yes.
That means you have a struggle between labor forces, between income levels, different income levels. And on the other hand, we know, for example, from Uber in the performance of the last years, that there has been a lot of struggles and clashes between the people who are driving these cars, who are offering these services. And I think what is most important for a public authority like the city of Vienna is to get a lot of contact and a lot of collaborative experience with companies like yours or yours to improve its own services, as well as the cooperation and the sharing of service providing. What I'm missing at the moment a little bit with these interruptive economies at the moment, I don't think that Car2Go is any more disruptive, but your business or Uber was disruptive. How this will fit into more, how to say, in a more routine of cooperation and setting, and also you have to provide as a city, for example, that every part of the city has the possibility to take these services.
Yes.
As we know from Uber, for example, if you are at the periphery, you can use Uber, but you have to pay a lot of money.
So it's not.
And therefore, you don't have the equalization. And that's one of the most important points, I think, how to stay social inclusive with these new sharing economies.
Yes.
I think.
What is your point of view?
Yes, Andreas.
Andreas, sorry.
Okay. It's a learning process, I think, in any kind. It was in the past the same. If you have a disruptive technology, a new business model, the regulations and the legislative is always behind. Yeah. So I think it's important to watch these developments exactly, and I think that China is a very good example, because the Chinese industry concerning corporation firms is very well developed, and as I have read, about $500 billion now we are at the extent of the revenue of this sharing economy. So we can learn much on the one hand, but your example, Uber and your Airbnb, shows us that different cities have a different approach to those. And I think there's a special, from my point of view, a very good approach from the city of Vienna to watch and support these new enterprises, but also at the same level to see what does it make with the social environment and not only the ecological results.
Yes, thank you very much. But maybe the point is that, I mean, your business model seems to be a good one. I mean, in the sense that you have an impact, but also the other question of job creation. So, but you're taking maybe jobs somewhere, you're creating jobs. And I think this is the same as a question for both of you. Because I say, you're taking other people opportunity, they have a service provider and their business will go down. So then there is an impact probably on jobs, creation and income. But then you're creating jobs. So the economy is moving, shifting from one side to the other side. What is the relation with that in terms of, because you also mentioned job creation. How that works?
I mean, for Car2Go, we have, when we started in Vienna, for instance, we had a lot of doubts by different kind of industry types or individuals involved in different industries, like for instance taxi drivers, of course, also public transportation, and basically, I mean, when you look at that, what was going on in a city 10 or 15 years ago, you had a public transportation infrastructure and you had a private car ownership, and you had maybe a bike ownership, and people were walking around, and you had taxis, so that was that. So now we have much more options for people to get around, and for instance, for the taxi drivers, we really could convince them, and we can really show them that we were not this big of an enemy to them, and to take their drives away. Also from a capacity level, you also have to look at that. I mean, in Vienna we have about 4,000 taxis, or 4,500, I guess. So, and now we are operating 700 cars in Vienna, so it's a little difference. There are much more cars be run like that. And also from public transportation point of view, it is like when we started in Vienna and we had 500 cars and we had only smart two-seaters, we could transport at the maximum 1,000 people at the same time. So I don't know exactly how many people fit in a tram or a underground, but I think it's pretty much more than 1,000 people. So what I want to say is you also have to look at the perspective when you have in Vienna 2.5 million drives per day in the public transportation system, and then you look at Car2Go with now 700 vehicles and 6 drives per car per day. So this is something where you have to take into perspective how many drives can be taken away. But I think that's the very interesting thing about this whole mobility circle. The main focus point has to be that we bring people to change their mindset and to change their thinking, because when they are jumping in their car in the morning and drive in the city, then we are done. Because then they are driving around with their car, they are having it in the car,
and that's doing for the last
But if
many
we
years.
if we can change their mindset to take, for instance, the public transportation to go to work, and going back at home with a Car2Go or a bike or a taxi or an Uber, for instance, we have changed their way of mobility, how they learned it and how they perceived it for the last, I don't know, in my case, 40 years. So this is something, I guess, where we all take part in and where we all work in, and that's where the city also comes into place to help to change this mindset and to support new ways of mobility, also to strengthen the public transportation, because in my opinion, public transportation is always the core of a city. Everything around is just supplementing.
But you responded to the needs of the customers.
Yes, of course.
And you decide your business based on what you think that the customer needs.
Yes, of course.
Right?
And when, I mean, at least for a business area, but at least for a business area, yes, we decide on our own. We take into account what the city might have to, or what wants to have, and what they like to have, and we try to implement it, like Seestadt Aspern, which is a huge topic. It's so far away from me, that's very hard to achieve, but we made a small adjustment, and now we are at the very least underground station before the station of Aspern. So we are getting there, and then, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Alexander.
Cool. I think this is a very interesting topic, right? So we talk about disruption, right? So are we disrupting the current system? So our answer is yes and no, right? So I think yes, in a sense that we are changing how the people get around the city. This is a new way of getting around the city. So basically, well, I mean, bike sharing, like if we look at the data, right? So the trip distance starts from 300 meters to ends around 3 kilometers. Right, so before 300 meters, people like to walk, and after 3 kilometers, people take bus or like to taxis. So these areas are blank paper before. There's no way, there's no transportation methods. Well, maybe you own your own bike, but in sharing economy, there's just nothing there, right? So basically, in that front, we're not disrupting anything. We're actually creating a new way for people. We're empowering the people, empowering the city to have a new way to get around. So that's number one point. Number two is that basically we're not disrupting with the existing system because, like, I think it's very intuitive to think that maybe there are some before we enter any cities, there is like a traditional like docking station, bike sharing programs. It's very intuitive to think maybe this is like a comparisons of taxis with Uber enter the city, and we're going to take the business from them. This is a very intuitive way of thinking. And we thought that as well, right? So, but what actually happened, I can share you, is very interesting, is that because the docking system has its limitations, obviously it has its benefits, but limitation is that maybe sometimes it's not dense enough. In some peripheral areas may not there, right? So these are limitations. So maybe not convenient enough like everybody's using it. Right, so actually, let's say there are like 100 bikes on the docking station, but maybe there's like 1 million people who are potential users, but because of the limitations, not a very small portion of them actually activated. So when we enter the city, like we bring sort of like a station-free model, which is much more convenient, easily accessible, and cheaper and easy to use with a smartphone. Then what happened is that we activate the market. So basically, out of that 1 million people, maybe 50% of them become the users. As of today, the city of Beijing, of 25 million population, over 50 million people have become our user. So before that, how many of them are users of docking stations? Maybe like, I don't know, like a few thousands. Right, so we activate the markets. Actually, all the people come actually back to bikes. So we bring the city back to bikes. So the thing is that when that happens, this will actually increase the usage of the existing system. So you look at the data of the public docking station-based bikes, the before and after we enter, you actually see a massive increase of the usage. So in that case, I don't think we're disrupting. We're actually a catalyst. We're actually promoters of the bikings. So that is what we see, like when we enter the cities. So it does not only happen in China, but it also happening everywhere in the world we enter. So we're very, very confident of the model and the benefits we bring to the city. Obviously, there will be challenges, and we will be super transparent with the city governments to deal with together. But on the other hand, like we are providing a new way, create a new way for people to get around the city, empowering the city, and we're super confident that we are actually a friend of the existing system.
Okay, thank you very much. Before that, I just wanted to make just one second reflection, because I think on very, very interesting discussion, we see from the government, the public sector perspective, we say, impact, reducing mobility, impact on environment, tax, impact on tax and on job creation. So these are the key elements under which you partner with private sector and this, share economy platform, if that is respond to your objectives as a managing the public goods. On the other hand, we see that the different models change if you're looking at taking away or changing existing business and creating additional competition or not. But there is one element. So we are here at UNIDO, so we promote industrial development. But what I see, and I give you an example, my daughters, they also share clothes on internet. So how's all this going to have an impact on the producing? I mean, you say, the car2go is also producing cars, but what is an impact on an industry? I mean, if you are sharing bike, who's producing bike is going to lose a job. If we're sharing clothes in an easy way, then you don't need to produce them. What is the relation between the two? So the government, we understand, the business to do the business. What is the relation between the two?
May I tell an anecdote?
Yes.
10 years before, a big car producer in Albach, which is an intellectual forum in Austria, told me that he is responsible for the green movement of the big car producer. And I asked, what are you doing? And he says, we are supporting green grassroots movements in the villages, in the cities. And I thought, okay, why? But your business model is producing cars. And he said, yes, that's true. We're supporting green movements in the villages, in the cities, so that more people are going by bike, going by public, so we can drive, our customers can drive with the big cars with any traffic jam. And so this was 10 years before, so as you mentioned, he said it after 3 beers in the evening.
But didn't work.
Yeah. And maybe, as you mentioned, it's a change in mind. I'm a little skeptical if it's a change in mind for all persons equally. So I think there are profiting some and some are not profiting. I think that we have to be in mind.
Okay,
yes.
let millennials. How do they going to behave in this? I mean, personally, I see I have 2 daughters, they're 12 and 16.
Yeah.
They don't want to buy a TV, they will never buy a car.
Yeah.
So all the things that we are used to, all these goods, maybe they're going to change it. So they are more interested in say, why you buy a new car? Hey, you can take car to go, or Uber, or you walk. Don't buy a new car, because the mentality is changing. So how that is going to affect?
On the one hand, I agree with your opinion, but what I see with younger people I'm working with years. During the years, they change also their minds. It's not that from the birth until death you have only one opinion. You're always working on your different opinions and your different identities. And I think there will be a mainstream which will change a lot, and I hope it will change a lot, how we make mobility in the cities. It's not useful to do it by individual cars. That's for sure. But at some time, some people say, okay, it would be fine if I would have had it. I think that's one point. The other point is, you look, for example, you ask for the impact on industry.
Yes.
Industry, I think it's a question if you only look to the hard side of the production, or if you see it as a whole package of development, of research, development, production, distribution, servicing, etc. I think, for example, and I know it from Daimler Stiftung, for example, they're doing a lot in the question how they could change their whole business model as a car producing company, because they know this will not be the same as it has been the last 50 to 60 years. And they have to think about what kind of services, what kind of consulting, of providing, etc. we will do. That's, for example, from my point of view, the crucial point when it comes to a new kind of cooperation between public infrastructure providers and private mobility providers. I don't see how it will run, but I think something happens
That's a key element
at the moment.
Who wants to comment on that?
I want to emphasize it one more time. For me and for us, the important part is sharing economy. Share economy has to be fair economy. It has to have an impact, and it has to work together. There is some way of collaborating, of cooperating, or it is not a share economy. I think that is pretty logical, you know? So this is how it has to work. On the other hand, the transition that you mentioned, I think there is going to be a lot happening in cities. That's why we're sitting here. But then I think, you know, this is in different time, you know, overviewing different times. The European cities are different than the Asian cities, are different than the Northern American cities, than the South American cities. So I think, you know, you have different pace. So it will change, and it is good to think about it, but is not changing all right now, right here. But the global aspect also is a very interesting aspect, you know? It's acting globally, but having to, you know, put it into local markets. This is the challenge.
So, but the demand is there. We want to make it fair, and we want to see. I mean, this is happening anyway.
Fair is share. If it's
Fair is
not
share.
fair, it's not share.
Yeah, at one point, only
Yes.
one point to that. I think what's,
I think so.
what's absolutely new in this phase of our development now, that at the first time there are services and products which have a very tough local impact, which are done by international companies. That's very different from times before, because if we talk about, if you look, for example, to the production of trams in Vienna, we have two companies who are doing this. It's Siemens and Bombardier. I think this will change a lot. This will be international companies who will compete in different cities and provide different cities with a very similar system of public transport, for example. It's not bad from my point of view, but it changes a lot how to interfere in the decision process, because you have a balance between the political sector, which is very local, and you have a business sector which is internationally driven. And that makes new questions open now.
Can I just add one sentence? Because no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just it's really just one sentence. I don't
Okay.
want to be I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm pro business. This is good.
think it's
Innovation,
clear, it's clear.
everything.
Yeah, I think
It's just also important for the businesses calling themselves sharing, being part of a sharing economy, that the label is not misused and anybody runs around with it and calls themselves sharing economy. This is not going to be.
As Porter
you
says,
know,
share values. You share economy,
there
share
has
values.
to be an impact and some
I
common.
have you, and then if you want to.
You mentioned that your daughters don't buy any clothes anymore. So what is with the producers?
Not going
I
to
think
last long.
Yes. Well, they still buy, but
you
they
thought
share
it
a
will
lot.
change afterwards. But a very common method is that you build around new services, where you add services like Mercedes, and try new business models. For instance, fuel exploring is not a very promising business, and I know for one company who says what could be our future strategy. We have about 40,000 fuel stations, so there is a shift completely to say we are the biggest retailer. And what we're looking for, we need online shops to promote our retail shows. So this is now in the thought of many big firms, and also we at the university have to think of our learning methods, MOOCs and so on, massive offline courses. So there is a big change throughout the digitalization, and not only textile producers.
No.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I probably quickly add 2 points here. I think it's very, very good, constructive discussion. I really love it. So 2 things, I think, for me. Number 1 is if you look specific, because we're talking about the relation between the new industry versus the service industry. So I think one is specifically for the bike sharing. So what happened, what we see is that actually, you know, like in China, like there's a trend, like people start from like late 1990s, start to buy cars. And more we used to be the kingdom of bicycle, right? So starting from end of 1990s, like people start to get like more cars because the economy grows and people like get more money and buy cars. So actually every year, like in China, there are millions of cars sold. So actually there's a trend of like going to cars, right? So actually when we enter the business, when we start massively sort of like to bring bikes to people's eyes, actually we sort of like activate the biking manufacturer's business. So I can give you an example. Like there's one manufacturer in Tianjin, and their business annual sales is like going down, and many people are losing their jobs because of this. And when we enter the business and we go in there and we're actually bringing a lot of orders to them, and basically like their sales like taking off. So for us, very specifically for the bicycle industries, actually we're creating a lot of jobs, not only in Ofo, but also for all the surroundings bike-related businesses. But I'm not exactly sure what that impact for the car industry, but that at least for the bicycles, like we're creating a lot of jobs, thousands of jobs. That's number 1. Number 2 is that sort of like if we think a little bit beyond like very specific like car sharing or bike sharing, if you think about how like the human civilization evolves, right? So I'm very optimistic about like the development, right? So it's like there will be no technology. there will be new business model replacing the previous ones. But that doesn't mean like the job is gone. There will be new jobs created. So if you think about like back in old days, like they're like horse riders and the cart. And when the car come out, what they think? They think they lose all the jobs. But what happened is that we got a new job called drivers, right? When the plane got invented, right? So it's like, I think I made my point very clear. So it's like
your point is absolutely clear.
I'm pretty
this is what I wanted
optimistic. Yeah.
Want to find an agreement. I mean, this is as an impact. It's a taxation, all this, but at the end of the day, the big demand is job creation, and the job creation is created by the traditional economy and the share economy, and the shift should be a development is fair,
line,
but to create the opportunities, maybe shifting from one industry to another, but at the end of the day, the overall objective of this, in the context of also why we are here, is that this has a huge impact on changing, because the market is changing, the people are changing, you're offering, you exist because you find an opportunity, there is a market opportunity. But at the end of the day, the final result should be an inclusive and sustainable development. So more jobs, more opportunities.
That's going to be a challenge.
One last round. Yes, it is. And especially for us that we are, working in developing countries and proposing model for them. What model we should propose, the traditional one, the share, of course, given the different options. Anya.
This is inclusive labor market and job creation that we understand as fair and decent jobs. This is going to be a challenge. No doubt about that. So we have to look into it. This is a lot of talk about Uber and about the Uber drivers and how they're all just their own businesses and not. We have to look at it, and we have to see, is this what we call a good and decent job? Is this what is an inclusive labor market? Can we handle it with our, labor market laws and rules? How is this going to fit in? Because at the end, we need people to earn money to get by and to, also have going on a sustainable, social welfare system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is also going to be a very interesting and, hard point to get together here, how we can all manage it, because at the end, I think nobody really wants to have people living poor and people living very rich, at least not we, at least not the city of Vienna. So this is the job, the inclusive and decent job creation is a challenge. A lot of it is going to be about cutting working hours, but that's not really anything lots of people want to hear.
We want to discuss now. There will be another day. No, I think this is very interesting. You have just 1 minute each, and I will give it to you to say, exactly to respond to that. We, as I mentioned, the share value. So, business things are changing, the customer needs are changing, and this we see as an opportunity if, as a whole, has a positive impact. So what is your view is quite clear. What is your view on this future?
I think from my point of view, it's a very, I'm a fan of this development which is taking place at the moment, and also the speed in which it is going on. But what we have to be aware is, and I think that's very clear when we look to the different studies, that we will have a lot of problems in the labor market and also in the question of the income of people, because we will realize more jobs only with a time shift, not at the same moment as you are producing or if you are implementing new innovations.
But this is true for new technologies.
Yeah, but you will have times where people don't have jobs. And we have to think about on the one hand, this is the economic strand, and we have to think about the social political strand, how to tackle these tensions which will take place in our society.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that one way to control the development and to control the innovation on that field is to promote innovation in that field. There are also different other collaborative forms like social innovations, as a social connectivity, yes, and I think that we should think over this more and to look at the benefits, who is benefiting and who is the loser of different developments. But I'm a fan of to be a front runner in that respect and to watch what is happening.
Okay, excellent.
I think I very much agree with you. I think it will not happen exactly at the point when a new way of whatever enters the market. I think there's the wave behind that, and then we will see if it's a positive development or if it's not such a good development. Like, I mean, also for Car2Go in Vienna, when we entered the market, at that time car sharing AT was not bought by Zipcar. They were operating alone, and they had also, what you mentioned before, a huge lift in customers because the awareness for this topic was in the city. Then they were taken over by Zipcar and so on and so forth, and the story ended this year in August. So I mean, I'm not proud of killing 2 station-based car sharing systems in Vienna, but it happened because it happened of the innovation that took place. But those things will go back in another wave, and we have a sustainable business, and there is another provider of free-floating car sharing in Vienna, and I'm sure there will be a third one also at some point. So I think this all develops in waves, definitely about that, and those are things that happen, and the innovation happens, yes. You just have to see where you can get your business in this innovation, and then have it, of course, in a fair environment, that's for sure, and that will work out. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think I'll make it short. So I think everybody we sit here, we actually have the same goals. We want to make the city better, make like the people live better. So I think that's the same goal. That's the shared goal. Just like I think we need to find a way to cooperate together, like to make the growth happen in a very measured way. So that's our goal as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I think this is the shared goal and the shared opportunity. I really thank you very much. I personally enjoy very much listening to you, and you stimulate a lot of ideas. And I really thanks on behalf of UNIDO, the organizers, to be with us today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.